Capobanco, Principal at St. Pius X High School, Susan Irene Lufty, mother of Danielle Lufty, Vice Principal at St. Matthew High School. May the songs of the angels welcome you and guide you along your way. May perpetual light shine upon you, and may you rest in peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please stand for Roll Canada. Father Gerard, faith and focus this evening.
Amen. This month's spiritual theme is building bridges of joyful collaboration. We often speak about collaboration as though it is a simple skill. But in the gospel, collaboration is something far deeper. It's an act of trust in God's plan for human relationships. We are living in a time where it's easy to retreat into ourselves, yet Christ consistently gathers and builds community out of an unlikely set of people. He continues to work through ordinary relationships to reveal something larger than either of us could accomplish alone. This is the gift of joyful collaboration. Next slide, please. In Catholic education, we witness this every day. A staff member who notices someone struggling even before they ask for help. Students learning to include rather than exclude. Colleagues carrying one another through difficult moments. Communities gathered around grief, celebration, and hope. These moments reveal the kingdom of God taking shape among us. Next slide, please. There we go. This month, we saw powerful examples of the Spirit within our community. The St. Mother Teresa Chapel was transformed into a thrift store where students donated gently used clothing that was then sold to peers, raising money for the Ottawa mission. We also witnessed this spirit during Red Dress Day, where students helped build bridges of empathy, awareness, and care. In taking time to listen, reflect, and honor the stories and experiences of others, our community demonstrated that bridge building begins with the recognition of one another's humanity and standing together in solidarity. Next slide, please. Alongside these moments were also reminders of our partnership with God's grace and our shared pilgrimage through life together. Students and staff from Notre Dame High School and Immaculata journeyed to St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, bringing with them their personal prayers and the intentions of their school communities. In that sacred place of prayer, the pilgrimage became more than a journey to a holy site. It became the lived expression of our faith in the fact that we do not walk alone. We are accompanied by God's grace and supported by a great communion of saints who inspire us, intercede for us, and walk with us as joyful collaborators in God's ongoing work of love in this world. Next slide, please. In our world today, joyful collaboration becomes a powerful witness to the gospel. Deep and authentic learning can only happen when learners engage with the real world around them and begin to ask how they might help make it better. This is why joyful collaboration matters so deeply. When we work together to bring hope, healing, justice, and compassion into the world, we participate in something larger than ourselves. The same is true of faith. Faith cannot remain only an idea, words, or intentions. We grow in faith by living it. The gospel comes alive when it is practiced. Next slide, please. As the school year draws to a close, we are reminded that the call to build bridges does not end with the final bell in June. In many ways, this is when the invitation becomes more personal. Each of us is called to be a living bridge, to become someone who carries peace into places of tension, kindness into moments of discouragement, and connection into a world that too often leaves people feeling unseen or alone. As summer approaches, we reflect on how we might carry the spirit of joyful collaboration beyond our classrooms and workplaces. Whether through acts of service, moments of compassion, or simply being present for others, we are called to be bridges that connect hearts and communities. As we prepare for the summer, we are reminded that the work of bridge building continues in every season of life. In the weeks ahead, we pray for the wisdom to recognize the gifts we have been given and to use them to bring peace, love, and connection to the world. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father. Can I have a mover to approve the agenda, please? Trustee Phelan? And those on the right-hand side? Trustee Moore? That the agenda of the regular board meeting of May 26, 2026 be approved and presented. All in favor, please? Opposed? Carried. School student departmental profile, we have none. Declarations of conflict of interest, I have received none. Confirmation of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 12, 2026. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee McEwen. Trustee Melito. That the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 12, 2026 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no unfinished business from previous meetings. Presentation and consideration of committee reports and student trustee reports. Item 1, Committee of the Whole of May 26, 2026. Madam Vice Chair.
Nothing to bring forward.
Thank you. Item 2, memo from the Director of Education, Parent Involvement Committee minutes of February 10th, 2026. Madam Director.
For receipt, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Moore, seconded by Trustee Simpson. The memorandum from the Director of Education dated May 20th, 2026, and the report entitled Parent Involvement Committee minutes of February 10th, 2026 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Memo from Trustee Brian Coburn, Chair of the Audit Committee, recommendation of the appointment of external auditor services for fiscal years of 2025, 2026 to 2030, 2031. Trustee Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The audit committee met last week, and one of the items on that agenda, I'm just pulling up my report here, was with regards to our audit services. So as people are familiar with, Deloitte's have been our auditor for the last 14 years and served us very well. So I'm not sure if the minutes can reflect that, but if they can, I would like the minutes to reflect our appreciation to Deloitte for being our auditors for 14 years, which is I'm not sure if it's unprecedented, but it's a long time. They've done a great job. Anyway, we are at a point where we have to go to tender with regards to audit services. Fortunate for us, last time we did it ourselves. I don't know if Chair Mullen remembers being on the audit committee when we did it, but it was a extensive process. So unbeknownst to me, but much to my positive surprise, there's an organization now called OECM that does it for services such as this for the education sector. And so they ran the tender process for us. There were 4 organizations that pre-qualified for that tender, one being Deloitte, the incumbent. At the end of the day, based on, and you'll see in the memo, the selection process and evaluation, qualifications and experience, expertise and staffing, audit plan approach, and maximum rates. Anyway, at the end of the day, BDO was the successful winner of that tender process, and their fees were, actually was a very competitive process. One group decided not to bid, but the other 3 had very competitive prices, and at the end BDO was the lowest, and so that's what we decided to do in terms of selecting them as our auditors going forward. So there's a motion that I'm happy to pass, and I'd be willing to answer any questions people might have of that process. I'll move the motion if people have, unless people have questions.
Any questions, comments? Seconder? Moved by trustee Colbert, second. Thank you. Moved by trustee Coburn, second by trustee Moore, that the audit committee recommends to the Board of Trustees the appointment of BDO Canada LLP as the external auditor for the Ottawa County School Board for a period of 5 years, effective for fiscal years 2025-2026 through 2030-2031, and the approval of BDO Canada LLP annual audit fees proposal accepted for the 5-year term. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item J, presentation consideration of staff or trustee reports. Item 1, memo from the superintendent of leadership and parent engagement, spiritual theme update for 2026-2027. Welcome, Superintendent Power, and Ms. Boeva, welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to have Ashley Boivin, Coordinator of Religious Education and Family Life, here with me today to share some updates on our spiritual theme for the upcoming school year. We are entering our 3rd year of our spiritual theme, which focuses on nourishing new beginnings.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair. As you know, our spiritual theme for 2024-2027 is we are called to open doors, build bridges, and nourish new beginnings. This year, we are in year 2, building bridges. It has been inspiring to see how deeply this theme has resonated across our system. Next slide. In year 1, we focused on opening doors by creating welcoming, faith-filled spaces where all could experience belonging. Across our schools, this came to life through shared learning opportunities, family events, cultural celebrations, parish visits, and services to those in need. These experiences strengthened relationships, deepened faith, and built a stronger sense of community across the system. This foundation naturally led us to year 2, building bridges focused on connection, kinship, and solidarity across communities and generations. Inspired by Christ's example, we are building bridges of faith, hope, love, and healing through listening, dialogue, and understanding. We see this through mentorship and buddy programs and partnerships with our parishes, elders, and community members, and through storytelling and classroom dialogue where students are growing in empathy, respectful listening, and reconciliation. We're also seeing this theme come to life through cultural celebrations, leadership opportunities, and rich learning experiences that promote peace and unity. Students continue to live this out throughout service, including visits to the seniors' residence, food drives, and other outreach initiatives. In classrooms, inclusive learning environments foster collaboration, student voice, and belonging, while staff model Christ-like accompaniment in daily relationships. Together, these practices are building connection, compassion, and solidarity across generations and communities. Catholic Education Week offered a powerful opportunity to celebrate this work. From May 3rd to 8th, schools across the board marked the week with a wide range of activities, including open houses, school masses, breakfasts, special guests, STEM events, and more. There was creativity, joy, and generosity in every school as communities found meaningful ways to welcome families and celebrate Catholic education. One strong example of building bridges is our OCSB kindergarten book that you have in front of you. This project began as a system-wide effort to strengthen our Welcome to Kindergarten experience and grew into a meaningful collaboration across departments and areas of expertise. Written by two-time Governor General Award-winning author Caroline Pignat and illustrated by Alan Cranny, whose work includes major animation studios like Disney, Century Fox, and Universal Films. The book follows 8 animal characters through a typical kindergarten day grounded in authentic OCSB practices. It highlights moments such as prayer, outdoor learning, play-based centers, and self-regulation strategies, helping children see themselves as welcomed, capable, and valued. It also includes parent and guardian notes with practical ways to extend learning at home and support family engagement. The project also includes contributions from across our system, including student artwork and messages from our partners in education, such as yourself, Mr. Chair, our Archbishop, Director, and Parent Council. It even has a special note from the author, who herself is an OCSB kindergarten alumni, and illustrator who also happens to be her father. Additional resources include book creator, audio versions, coloring pages, and Canva templates that invite students to create their own books and share advice for incoming kindergarten students. The collaboration is ongoing, with translations currently in progress to support greater accessibility for our families. More than a resource, this book is a bridge, welcoming the newest members into our OCSB family. We are so looking forward to nourishing new beginnings next year. Year 3 will build on the gifts of the previous years. We will continue with monthly sub-themes, introducing anchor words such as gather, notice, remember. Each word will invite us to slow the pace of school life and be more intentional about where we place our attention. These words will help us recognize the gifts already present, build healthier rhythms, and notice moments of connection, growth, and care in everyday school life. And of course, we're working on preparing additional spiritual theme resources to support educators with practical, ready-to-use content for each month. These will be available on our internal website and ready for September to support seamless integration across the system. And so, with the journey so far, we look ahead with hope and anticipation and gratitude for the past, for what is still to come is very exciting, and we're looking forward to see what's new. So thank you for your ongoing support, leadership, and our partnership in this work. If you have any questions, Mr. Chair, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much to you, Mr. Chair. Every year, every theme you come in, and it just amazes me. And the system, you see it everywhere you go. Even at the audit committee, we heard about building bridges. But is there any chance of a 4th year with this?
It's funny you said that, because when you see it so successful and you see it come to life, you don't want to see it go either. So we are going to absolutely trust where the Spirit is going to lead us into the next chapter and see where it goes. I don't know if it might be new if we're continuing on with it, but it is a good one. I do agree. Thank you.
Jaden.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just saw on the slide, it says an AI chatbot. What's that? Do you know if you could tell me a little bit about that? Because it looks really cool. Just wanted to know a little bit about that.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The chatbot was something that was actually probably one of our first experiments when we were introducing AI here at the board. And it was a really beautiful way for us, especially in religious education and family life education, where you want to see that human connection be at the front and foremost. So what we had created was a chatbot for our educators to use interviews where it was all backloaded with our OCSB voice. So I had explained previously, probably at the beginning of the year or the year previous, where when you would ask ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the other tools, sort of, does Jesus love me? Something as simple as that. And it recognizes its role as a chatbot and it says, no way, I can't answer that one. But you'll notice for our educators when they're using this, because it's front loaded with who we are at OCSB and our own identity, it's going to respond with absolutely, Jesus loves you, because that's who we are and that's what we believe in. So it is tailored completely to help educators planning different events or lesson planning to have it completely rooted in our spiritual theme. So it's something that we update each year to make sure it's current with our new writings and our new research. But yeah, so it is an educator tool at this point, but we're going to develop it out for school AI and all of that for our students as well.
Father Gerard.
I just want to say I'm so impressed with all the work and all the dedication. This book is just incredible. That's number one. That's fabulous. The way that you've integrated the spiritual theme across every aspect of the school board, it seems, which is just exactly what we should be doing, of course, as a Catholic school board, as our faith permeates everything we do. So I just want to thank you for your dedication, your work, and your commitment to living out your vocation in working in Catholic education. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I would just echo what Father Gerard just said, and the book is fabulous. Can I have a mover, please, to receive the report? Trustee Phelan. Seconder. Trustee Lukatich Mars. The memorandum from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement dated May 20th, 2026, entitled Spiritual Theme Update 2026-2027 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Ashley. Item 2, memo from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement, read staff census 2026. Welcome to Dr. O'Hara. Welcome Michelle, Sheila, and Lauren.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Today, our team is excited to introduce the OCSB Staff Census 2026. It's an opportunity for every staff member to share identity data and help build a more inclusive, equitable, and welcoming workplace where everyone feels valued and a sense of belonging. Michelle McGarry, System Principal of Leadership and Parent Engagement, Sheila Keynes, Manager of Human Resources, Lauren Figueredo, the OCSB researcher, will be presenting an overview of the 2026 staff census and will be available to answer any questions.
Good evening. Tell us about yourself. Make a difference. We have kept the same tagline and branding as a student census, but note the OCSB staff photos in place of student ones. It is our hope that employee familiarity with the student census will encourage people to participate in our second staff census.
For the 2022 census, we had a 45% participation rate. We are hoping to increase the rate this year. The 2022 results help to serve as the foundation for the 2024-2027 EDI framework and multi-year plan. We would like to share some of the initiatives that the board has put in place following the data that was collected in the 2022 census. Recruitment, hiring, and retention initiatives for equity-seeking groups, such as moving towards diverse hiring panels, a review of job advertisements for culturally appropriate language, and targeted outreach for recruitment in collaboration with community partners. We have new employee resource groups, such as the Network of Asian Employees, the Queer Employee Network, the Disability Employee Network, and the Black Employee Network. We have new inclusive infrastructure, such as gender-neutral facilities. and the delivery of equity-focused professional development for staff, such as system-wide delivery of mandatory bias awareness training, anti-racism training, and inclusive hiring training, as well as specialized orientation support for NTIP teachers who are internationally trained Canadian teachers. We are looking to build on the insights from the 2022 census and continue the work of advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion strategies and initiatives by understanding how our workforce identifies as our board continues to grow. This census, our focus is that we want all staff to feel confident in responding and promoting participation because they know their information is protected. Comfortable filling it out by providing choice on how they wish to respond, including the option to skip questions. Encouraged to reach out to their leaders, unions, or employee resource groups leads if they have questions, and valued because their participation will make a positive difference in future strategies and initiatives.
The staff census is voluntary and anonymous. No identifying data, such as personal names, will be collected, and no individual can be identified from the raw data files. Each question is optional, so a participant may choose to participate in as little of the census or as much of the census as they choose to indicate parts of their identity and not others if they're not comfortable. Data will be securely stored and will follow all of our protocols for secure storage, and there will be limited access to the data files only by the research department for the purposes of the data analysis. Results will be reported in groups only with a data suppression threshold of a minimum of 20 responses, and raw data files will not be shared. There are 3 main sections to the census. The first section contains the series of identity questions which have been set out by the province based on the ARDS, the Anti-Racism Data Standards, and they're the same questions as the 2022 cycle. The second part of the census indicates questions on perceived barriers that participants may have experienced in the workplace to things such as their potential career advancement or access to mentorship programs and opportunities. And that section will allow us to cross-reference the data with the identity information. So we can look at whether, for example, certain identity subgroups are proportionately represented more than others across those perceived reported barriers. And then the third section includes some standard indicators around current employment, things like years of service at the school board, anticipated date of retirement, and level of formal education. And so that will just provide a better overall picture of our workplace demographic.
To support promotion, a staff census hub has been created and is accessible through the staff portal. It has a wealth of information, including an FAQ and a list of the census questions. In April, all principals and managers received a slide deck with speaker notes for use in their May staff meeting to support them in informing their group about the census. The link to this hub was highlighted. Additionally, each union group lead was part of our central committee meetings. Not only did this help us determine the most impactful way to roll out the census, but this structure ensured they had in-depth knowledge which will allow them to answer any questions their members may have. Thus, the May staff meeting, along with board business emails and this hub, will provide staff with the necessary information and time to ask questions before the census opens. On June 2nd, every OCSB employee will receive an email through board business with a link to the census. The email will also include a video highlighting some results of the 2022 census with messaging from the Director of Education as well as the hub link. Messaging will reinforce key themes such as confidentiality, purpose, and impact of their participation in the census. Staff will be given time during the June staff meeting to complete the census. Lastly, findings will be communicated in the 26-27 school year. We are hopeful that the promotion, launch, and engagement strategies outlined this evening will ensure staff feel comfortable to take the time to participate in the census. The OCSB values the information that will be shared and will use the results to continue to shape a more inclusive and representative workforce that makes up our OCSB family. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Trustee Moore?
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Chair. 45% actually not bad for a survey result. But my question is, we've just come out of the Canadian National Census. And that probably is going to make it a lot easier because you're following a lot of the same protocols. It's very secure data. Is there any thought to moving it to every 5 years to match the Canadian census to maybe hope to get more people to buy in?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It is true that it would be good for a population instrument such as a census to be administered on a regular basis, such as a 5-year term. So I do think it would be beneficial to move to that staggered type of rollout. Currently, since the onset of the census, which was piloted by some school boards pre-pandemic, to now in 2026, there has been variability across the province with different school boards issuing different census at different years. So that would also help to align across school districts.
Trustee Simpson?
My question is, with the question to do with barriers, are we going to, is this upcoming report going to include a comparison with people that perceive they had faced barriers in their employment previously to the number of people and the groups that perceive they're experiencing barriers now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have any tracking information that would allow us to link at the individual level participant who responded in 2022 and now chooses to respond again in 2026. That said, though, at the aggregate level, we can certainly draw those comparisons. So, for example, to the barriers question, back in the 2022 cycle, there were 50% of participants who reported no barriers that they had experienced in the workplace. So we can see in the 2026 cycle, has this percentage fluctuated in any way or not?
Is there aggregate data available for some of the various groups that we're going to be looking at how they identify themselves as belonging to an employee group or an affinity group as compared to the barriers they face? Do we have that information from the last one that we can compare with this one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do, so we can make that comparison.
Is there any other questions or comments? Trustee Coburn?
Thank you. To Trustee Moore's question about participation rate, so 45% in 2022, what participation rate would you expect or would you hope for, I guess?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would be hopeful that with the second round, we would expect a greater participation rate than 45%. The good news is that sitting at a minimum, if we get around the same, around 50%, that's certainly more than enough for us to perform analyses that are representative of the population of the workplace as a whole.
Thank you. And just a comment, I think the census that we're running at the Ottawa Catholic School Board is a little bit different than the national census because it actually educates us in terms of some of the programs and areas that we want to focus on. I'm not sure what the national census does other than collect a whole bunch of data. Anyway, I'm just suggesting that I'm not sure 5 years would be an appropriate time frame to continue to do that. I think it's really a good idea. I think it's a great initiative. I don't want to overburden staff with regards to doing this, but doing it every 5 years to me might be a little bit longer than is necessary. I'm glad it's done. So this is 4. I'm not sure you can do it more than that, but I think reasonably we could do a little bit more than every 5 years. Just a comment.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Simpson. Seconder, Trustee Lukatich-Byers. At the memorandum from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement dated May 19, 2026, entitled Staff Census 2026 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 3, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, re OCSB Attendance Strategy, Connect to Engage. Welcome, Superintendent Benton, Dr. Belduc, Justine, and Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be joined this evening by Dr. Richard Balduc, Mental Health and Wellbeing Lead, Justine Ogle, our Social Work Lead, and Michelle Tarunsky, one of our mental health workers, who will present an update on the second year of our attendance strategy. This year, attendance continues to be a goal identified by the Ministry of Education and is one of the indicators reported on school boards across the province. This year, our work has focused on 2 goals: supporting the overall attendance strategy throughout all elementary and secondary schools, as well as helping schools develop effective Tier 2 initiatives. In tonight's presentation, the team will share our Year 2 roadmap for 25-26 and highlight some key progress areas in prevention, early intervention, and leveraging technology to inform our decision-making.
Thank you. Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair, we're happy to update you on our efforts to improve attendance rates across the board. So this year, we were intentional, as Superintendent Benton said, in focusing on implementing the attendance strategy action plan and also supporting schools in developing group work initiatives that they could use, because this was seen as an area of untapped potential. I've linked the attendance strategy here with our action plan inside it. You've seen this before, but if you wanted to look at it again, that link, you can just press on the, you can find the link on that graphic. So the Ministry of Education has made attendance a priority, and school boards are mandated to report on chronic absenteeism and to set goals around reducing their chronic absenteeism rates. Specifically, the ministry is interested in the percentage of students between grades 1 to 8 who attend school 90% of the time. They call that the 90 factor. Missing 10% of school is considered chronic absenteeism, and this translates to missing 2 days a month of school. This is the threshold at which, in general, we start to see negative academic and social consequences. So we're really pleased to show that our increased focus on attendance over the past few years is having an effect. This data comes from the ministry, and it shows the percentage of students attending 90% of the time for both the province and the board. So the province is in blue, our board data is in burgundy. And you can see that once we started addressing attendance more intentionally in 2023-24, our attendance rates have steadily increased for those students between grades 1 to 8 who are attending school 90% of the time. Just a few years ago, we were consistently scoring below the provincial average, but as you can see now, in 2024-25, so this is the most recent data we have for last year, our board had 63% of our grade 1 to 8 students attending 90% of the time, compared to the provincial average, which was 55.5%. And this is hot off the presses because the secondary data has only just come out, but the secondary data shows the same trajectory, and in fact is even more impressive, I would say, because in terms of our board, I think it's 60% of students in our secondary courses are attending 90% of the time, compared to 40% in the province. So we did develop a 3-year action plan when we developed our attendance strategy. We're currently in year 2, and these are the areas of focus that we really look at. So one is prevention, early intervention, another is partnerships, another is leveraging technology to inform our decision-making, and the other one is to make sure that we're using our resources efficiently and that whatever we put in place is sustainable. So I'll just briefly go over what we've done in each of these areas over this past year for the action plan. So in terms of prevention, early intervention, we know that attendance habits start early. And so we created parent handouts and a video explaining the importance of attendance that was then shared with our kindergarten parents during kindergarten orientation. In terms of partnerships, we created an attendance webpage on the Ottawa Catholic School Board website, which talks about the importance of attendance. It addresses the fact that our approach is collaborative, and it shares helpful resources. We also have worked more closely with the provincial attendance counselor to really figure out how we can use them to support our efforts. And we have worked with the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario and Parents Lifeline of Eastern Ontario in order to support parents of students who are avoiding school, and also to support those students who are having a difficult time attending school due to mental health challenges. We have leveraged technology in working with our learning technologies department to be better able to track students once they've been deregistered from our school board due to prolonged attendance problems, but also to alert schools as to those students who are approaching an attendance threshold that is problematic, so that will help them decide where to focus their efforts in terms of which students will need the most support around attendance. And we've also solicited feedback from principals around the attendance strategy to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the schools. And this year we really focused on Tier 2, so group work and targeted supports with help from our mental health workers who went out to the schools to support schools in that area. And so Michelle and Richard will speak more about that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, over the course of the last few years, the connection of the OCSB mental health, emotional and well-being and addiction strategy and the work of the mental health workers, as you know, has come to be very fruitful at the Tier 1 and 2 level. It's been incredibly important for the system, and through the classroom presentation and staff capacity building, the mental health workers have been working in schools at establishing their work with students from a relationship-based approach. Therefore, it made a lot of sense for the mental health workers that could go on supporting attendance in addition to their existent roles. Mental health workers, through a pilot approach, began to focus on the intermediate and high school exploration of attendance data, patterns, as well as groups and program possibilities. I would like to introduce you one of our mental health workers, Michelle Trunsky, who will now expand on examples of the work done with those pilot schools and what was done for students with attendance concerns.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I would really like to take a moment to speak about the different initiatives that the mental health workers have been doing within the schools. We all started by going into our identified schools, and we looked at the different data sets that were at the individual schools. And from there, we were actually able to determine the need based on each individual school. And so we looked at all of the data and were able to come up with some different strategies, some different initiatives, mostly through groups and programs aimed at teaching and developing tangible skills, so coping skills for stress management. We had building resilience skills through different initiatives like coping with stress groups. And we also really focused on engagement strategies and initiatives. As we spoke about a little bit earlier, engagement and connection and relationships were such a big need that we saw through the data as we sifted through that data. And if we go to the next slide, I'm really looking forward to telling you a little bit about what we're actually seeing based on these initiatives. And I'm going to highlight 3 specific schools, but we are seeing a whole bunch of different positive changes within the schools. So the first school I wanted to talk a little bit about was St. Pius. So St. Pius has they were running a group with both students and parents that was really meant to help build that engagement among the school community. And the mental health worker there, in collaboration with that school team, ran some sessions on that. And after we saw those sessions, we were really happy to announce that those students that attended those sessions went on to continue to attend school more consistently than they had before. And actually one student who was deregistered ended up re-registering after as well and coming back to the school. The second, Frank Ryan, I'm the mental health worker there. I wanted to just focus on the fact that running a group there has really brought that collaboration together as well. And a lot of the students have been attending on a more regular basis as well. And then we also have at Holy Trinity, last thing I want to tell you. So the school saw a 20% increase in students meeting that 90% threshold of attendance for semester 2 compared to last year. So we're really optimistic about what we're seeing.
So for next year, we will continue to build upon the areas of focus of our action plan, as well as in connection to the mental health strategy, building up preventions, partnerships, leveraging technology, and using our resources efficiently. We plan to develop more concrete resources that school administrators can share with students, parents, and staff to promote attendance, examine data from our Tier 2 initiatives, and to communicate effective practices within the system. So we are now ready for questions on the note.
Trustee Fallon, I knew when they mentioned Pius, you'd have your hand up.
True. Through you, Mr. Chair. However, I'm not talking about Pius tonight, but thank you for bringing up Pius. Wonderful school, of course. Just a quick question, just based on, mid-April, say April 16, 2026, the ministry came out with some new language wrapped around participation and attendance records for next year, 15% for 9 and 10, 10% for grades 11 and 12. Just looking into the future, we're in year 2 now. Just wonder if there's any, from your perspective, any adjustments or changes that will occur in your strategy sort of going forward into the year ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. Our strategy is really based on relationship building and engaging students. I don't know that the plans that the ministry are talking about in terms of having them, have their attendance tied to marks is really in alignment with our strategy. I don't know if it will hurt, but I don't think it's going to change what we're doing in terms of our strategy. What we're seeing is some positive effects, so I think we're going to stay the course.
Trustee Coburn, then Kira, then Jaden.
Thank you for the presentation. So I'm happy to see the trend line moving in the right direction, in particular against provincial averages. But when I look at 62.9, I see 37.1, right? So I see almost 40% of our students that don't meet that 90% attendance. And you said it was 2 days a month. So they're missing 20 plus days a year. So 40% of our elementary students are missing 20 plus days a year. So we heard some initiatives at 2 of your high schools and one of our middle schools. Could you enunciate some initiatives that you're doing at the elementary level with regards to maybe the data that you've collected?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Trustee Coburn, for an excellent question. The focus is really, as we've started this year with the mental health workers working at the intermediate to high school level, we're definitely looking at the elementary level as well. So this is always something that we've wanted to put forward. Given the numbers, the caseloads currently going on with the mental health workers as well, it's the question of distribution and knowing where to get the focus. I think it also spans to a tier 2 level and being able to measure more effectively. We see the data, we see it's there, but we feel that it's important to really have a better understanding about how the students are producing or how they're doing in return and with regards to to their attendance. So definitely, the focus will be towards elementary at some point, but we need to create a baseline at this point, and having every single mental health worker take on a pilot school environment at the intermediate high school is our phase 1, moving into phase 2 a little later.
Comment. So we've seen the data or the statistics with regards to elementary. You were saying you just received the secondary data. So be very curious to see that information or that data when you're able to share it with us.
Kira?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious in terms of the the target audience, I guess, or the students that fall under this data. How many of them are considered the high achieving students, maybe, who might be absent from class due to extracurriculars, or special accommodations that come with their with maybe some of the commitments they have. I'm curious, I guess, where they fall under in the action plan as well as in the data, and are these individuals as much as a concern? So yeah, if you could just speak on that a little.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that question. That's really insightful. And this actually speaks to the data that we were talking about earlier, that I don't think we'll ever reach 100%, because really there are going to be students who will be away for various reasons and will still be able to manage those absences. And so this is actually why we've moved towards having the mental health workers work specifically within their schools, because the issues that underlie absenteeism are so varied, and so there's no one size fits all initiative that we can use. And so they work with the school, and they'll look through the list of students. And the schools are really good at knowing what the reasons are for absenteeism for those students. And so if the student is not struggling academically or socially, then it's not a student that we need to support. And so we kind of narrow it down that way. But I don't have actual data on how many students are missing for sports and how many students are missing. So yeah, we don't get into that level of data. Thanks.
Jaden?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So I guess it's kind of like a little bit of a follow-up, but I was just wondering, at the start of the school year for my school, it was very common for students to skip their test days. So I was just curious if there's like, I guess you have said it already, but like I was just curious if there's any talk about preventing this, or if it's been brought up at all, or if there's any prevention strategies or anything. But
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's news to me, so that's that's interesting to hear. So we'll probably have to work with those individual schools to see what the reasons are. But yeah, if that's an issue, then that will be something we'll need to tackle for sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Trustee Moore, then Trustee Simpson. You already spoke.
Thank you, through Mr.
Okay, Trustee Simpson, Trustee Moore.
Thank you. I was just wondering, like, relationships are so very important, and the parents you've seen has made a huge difference. Now, of these students that are not meeting the standard of 90%, how many of these students go on to just leave school altogether?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, we don't have that level of data. The data we get is very aggregate, and it's collected by the ministry. So we would have to look at across the board and find it out that way, or within each school. So yeah, we don't know. What we can get from the ministry is 3 levels. So those students who attend 90% of the time, those students who attend between 80 to 90% of the time, and then the rest. But that's as kind of deep as it goes.
Supplemental? Is this an area that would be hard to manage those types of students once they leave the system? I know you're looking now at proactive, trying to get them and their parents before that's even a thought. But if they are 18 now, how hard is it to get them back?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is very difficult, which is why we're trying to shift to do more work at the proactive and early intervention level. Once they leave, they're no longer engaged in school. So to re-engage them is difficult. So then we try everything. We try to engage the parents, we try to engage the student, but it really is working individually with each student. And even at that point, once that habit has been formed, it's very difficult to get them to come back to school. Yeah.
Can I add a supplemental? Just to add to Mrs. Ogle's comments, and maybe more to look at the big picture. We also believe in, as we mentioned, the early intervention piece is extremely important. So back to the questions about elementary, we understand that the mental health workers being in the schools, establishing relationships, understanding with the staff the specific concerns of those students is a valuable asset. And it builds on to we would look at numbers, we can quantify, but it also remains the fact that we're knowing that if you get to this upstream, and we have excellent resources either through city or through provincial work with School Mental Health Ontario to really build up, that's grade 6 also, and at 10, we have a strong foothold of mental health, but it's really the connections that are important with those specific students. So upstream all the way.
Trustee Simpson.
Thank you. I was just going to make a comment about upstream and piggybacking on Trustee Coburn's comments. I think we do an amazing job with Tier 2. We understand the importance of engagement. We understand, anxiety, all of those things. No problem there. Now I'm going to go into my former principal's pet peeve, which is we have to remediate upstream the parents. And I was very happy to hear about kindergarten. I think that we need to get kids early on into a habit that it is important to come to school and it's their work. When we're developing partnerships, again, this is my principal's pet peeve, hockey associations, cheer associations, whatever association you belong to, are scheduling hockey games on Thursdays and Fridays. Then kids have to recuperate on Mondays, and they're often losing like 2 or 3 days of school, and that's not something that we can prevent as educators. I think we have to try and now start selling the public about the importance of this kind of stuff. And I think we're going to have to develop partnerships with hockey associations or cheer associations or what. I'm trying to ding both the boys and the girls there, all of them, because I know as a teacher it's very frustrating that in the winter on Fridays you don't teach anything, a new concept, because half of your class isn't going to be there. And I don't want to be looking at Mr. Hockey over here, but it is my principal's pet peeve. And a curriculum night every year, it would be something that I would talk about, the importance of being at school and decisions around these kinds of things. So I applaud everything you're doing, but I do think we have to try and bring parent councils on board and CSPA on board and get to the parents to get them to understand that we're doing all the heavy lifting on this and we really need their assistance to help us with education. So that's my rant. Thank you.
How do you really feel?
Oh, I didn't try.
Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Simpson. Seconder? Trustee Melito. At the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated May 20th, 2026, entitled Attendance, Connect to Engage, be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 4, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, interim financial report for the 7 months ended March 31st, 2026. Associate Director Shimmons, welcome. And Shelley, hope you're feeling better.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will turn it over to Ms. Donnelly to present.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I will provide a brief overview of the March 31st interim financial report. Enrollment numbers on page 3 remain unchanged from the presentation of the November 30th report, with revised budgets at 3.6% increase over the prior year. Moving on to page 4, the expenditures section of the operating statement has been reformatted to align with the 5 new funding categories released by the Ministry of Education for the 25-26 budget. Note that only the headings have changed, not the underlying line items themselves. The original budget is unchanged. The increases in the revised budget since our November 30th report are primarily attributed to special grants. The current and prior year actual results in the third and fourth column reflect cash received, committed, paid between September and March. This cash-based approach means it does not reflect the actual year-to-date financial position surplus deficit of the board. Revenues received are around 62 to 63%, and overall expenditures are 55 to 56% spent, both trending similar to prior year as of March 31st. The majority of the year-over-year increases are due to both enrollment growth and salary increases per contractual agreements, as well as timing of when expenditures are purchased. On page 8, other revenues, funds received from special grants and other funding streams are tracked as expected, with 68% received to date in accordance with related agreements and predicted revenues. On page 10, you'll find our capital activities. Please note that the commitments are not included in expenditures to date, as some span past the current fiscal year. Total commitments as of March 31st are $24 million. Actual expenditures on capital projects to date are $26 million. And then again, to note, short-term bank borrowing is used to finance the cash flow of these projects until reimbursement is received either from the Ministry of Education or educational development charges. Our next ministry payment is anticipated this July. And that concludes our overview, so we're happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Coburn.
It was presented at audit as well last week, so we had a chance to review it at audit, but I'll move it if there are no questions. The report was presented at audit committee last week, and so we had a chance to review it in detail. So if there are no questions, I'll move that motion. Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Seconder? Trustee Moore? Seeing no questions, moved by Trustee Coburn, second by Trustee Moore, that the memorandum of this from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated May 20th, 2026, entitled Interim Financial Reports for the 7 months ended March 31st, 2026, be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Welcome back, ladies. Memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, read 2026-2027 Core Education Funding. Ms. Shimmons. Ms. Donnelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are very happy to get this memo for the ministry. So on May 13th, 2026, the Ministry of Education released information regarding our 26-27 Core Ed funding, announcing $30.6 billion in funding provincially, representing a 1% increase over prior year. We are still currently awaiting the announcement of any responsive education program funding, or REPs. Overall, there were not many significant changes to the core education funding for the next school year, with the exception of several prior year REPs being permanently funded in the core education funding, which will be reviewed shortly. The board's core ed operating grants increased overall by $24.5 million, or 3.3% over prior year. Once we net out the REPs that were moved in, this increase drops to $20.3 million, or 2.8%. Salary benchmarks remain status quo due to the expiration of collective agreements this summer, with the exception of principals and vice principals whose terms and conditions do not expire until August 31st, 2027. There remains minimal to no changes in benefit funding, with the exception of employee life and health trusts, which agreed to recent negotiated amounts. With respect to grants included in core ed funding, the following increases were provided. An amount of $450 per eligible elementary classroom, or close to $1 million total, to provide teachers with classroom supplies. To note, boards are required to provide $750 per classroom. An additional $1.6 million of classroom curriculum supports, which must be sourced through Supply Ontario. $2.9 million in transportation funding to address updates to the 25-26 route simulation data, as well as increased market costs and inflation. Also, year 3 of 5 phase-in for census data updates to reflect the 2021 data, which was approximately $1 million for OCSB. and 2% for the non-staff portion of the school operations grant, approximating $500,000. The chart on page 2 of our memo summarizes the funding that was previously issued through REPs or other funding, which moved $4.2 million into the core ed grants. This includes a total of $2.4 million for reading intervention teachers and supports, and $945,000 for the Math Achievement Action Plan. This will allow greater consistency in these programs since staff can now be hired on a permanent basis. You will also notice funding for dual credit is now $563,000, as funding for this program is shifting from external partners such as Algonquin College directly to school boards who will now deliver the program. Special education REPs now in core ed include $108,000 in transportation for children and youth in care, as well as $217,000 for special education and disability transitions, which was previously 2 REPs, transition navigators, and co-op support for students with disabilities. Collectively, these amounts have reduced by $176,000 compared to 25-26. With respect to capital funding, we're receiving $4 million for temporary accommodation funding for portable acquisitions and relocations, which reflects an increase of $2.4 million over prior year. Renewal funding remains relatively similar to the current year, and the call for new capital priority program submissions has yet to be announced. And we're happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you. I'm just a little confused, so maybe I didn't understand the wording. So the investment for classroom supplies for elementary is these, we're given 450, we're supposed to give 750, and have we been told how we're giving, is that the money we're supposed to give the teachers each, 750?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. So essentially, the boards are being required to provide $750 to each homeroom, essentially. It's not specific to the teacher. However, they've only provided additional funding of $450. So they've kind of reallocated existing funding for the $300 and said we have to spend it in that manner.
And just a supplemental?
Sure, I was wondering if anybody else would catch that. $300 shortfall. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a $300 shortfall per homeroom. But it's, have they told us, given any indication of how it should be spent? So if I'm a teacher and I have a gift card for $750, I'm spending at Walmart the same amount as the teacher in the next room is spending at Walmart, instead of the savings from buying things together. So have they made any, like, is it supposed to be so terribly individual, or do we get to make some savings by buying in a group?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are awaiting more direction from the Ministry of Education. They have said they will be providing more direction on this, so we have yet to receive that information.
It's a magic $750 of buying power, but it's only going to, sorry, I won't comment. Trustee Simpson.
Just in addition to Trustee Moore, what kind of a hardship is this going to be on the finance department to manage these funds? Are we going to need to, like, is this going to be on the back of clerks that already exists? Or it just seems like with that number of staff, it could be a fairly time-consuming task.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. We did have a meeting with the ministry last week and raised a number of those questions. They did provide us with some details verbally that it is assigned to a classroom. It's not assigned to a teacher. So if a teacher starts out and leaves on maternity, the new teacher coming in assumes those resources that are left over for the remainder of the year, so it belongs there. I don't have clarity whether it's actually a purchasing card or if it will be some type of an account centrally. So in response to Trustees Moore's question, potentially it could still see some purchasing efficiencies by being bundled together. But that memo, we were advised last week with all those details and the frequently asked questions, we are expecting this week. So we're still raising those questions, but don't have all the full answers.
Madam Director.
And just to, through Mr. Chair, just to add on to what our presenters have said, when this announcement was originally made, directors of education were asked for names of staff to be part of a focus group to look at the whole gift card idea. And what we were told at that time was that it wouldn't be Walmart, so there would be a central a place to buy, but just like our Associate Director of Finance just said, we don't have the details on those yet, so we're expecting those soon.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I? Trustee Moore.
So was that data just raw information, data about people from the census, the Canadian census is being used, is it? It's useful information and it's phased in over 5 years. But is any of this coming with any extra funding? Are we going to maintain our rural schools funding? Are we going to be able to maintain? Or is it looking like it's going to be money's coming, we're losing with the census information? So we've got special education statistical prediction model. Does it look like, because a prediction model, but we live in a city that actually has more autistic kids than average because of the universities and colleges and high tech and government. So are we going to win or lose by this new data?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are gaining approximately 1 million overall. Specifically, the special education statistical prediction model, we're getting approximately 575,000. And the other larger one was the demographic needs, which is approximately 295,000.
Would you like to move that, Trustee Moore? Can I have a seconder, please? Trustee Lucas-Marins. That the memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated May 20th, 2026, entitled 2026-2027 Core Education Funding be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 6, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, re 2026-2027 preliminary budget information and proposal to balance. Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As has always been our process, tonight's budget presentations are to present the preliminary budget, including the $7.4 million list of additional items to be added to our core budget. Tonight, you won't be passing the budget. You will have the opportunity to ask questions or send along those questions that may come up later by email or phone via myself or Mary over the next 2 weeks. Then the next time we meet on June 9th, the complete budget document will be finalized and we will be seeking approval of the budget from the Board of Trustees. So as is our process, we continue to roll out several schedules each meeting. Ms. Donnelly is here to highlight the schedules attached in your memo.
All right, so we do have a number of sections to present tonight. 2 of those sections were previously presented on May 12th, but have been updated. One of those is Section E, full-time equivalent staffing, which was updated to add the permanent staffing related to the reading intervention and math grants that were moved into the core ed. Section G, to reflect an update to our OSTA transportation budget and the addition of departmental budgets for the REPs that are moving into core ed, as well as the dual credit program and the classroom supplies amount that were all mentioned in the 26-27 core ed memo. Section F is new and highlights some overall stats of our preliminary budget, including chart F1, which shows each expenditure category within our operating budget, noting our largest expense as salary and benefits representing 81% of total expenditures. Drilling down from F1 and looking at only salaries and benefits, chart F2 breaks down the total salary and benefits by envelope, showing 78% going directly to the classroom staffing, followed by 14% for student learning resources, 6% for school operations, and 3% for board admin. Lastly, chart F3 breaks down the benefit costs, which have increased by $3.4 million or 3% over prior year. the majority of which is due to staffing growth and increases to yearly maximum pensionable earning amounts. Moving on, the three revenue sections, H1 to H3, are also new tonight. Starting with H1, the summary of Ministry Core Ed grant allocation reflects the various components of our Core Ed grants. It also includes the 25-26 amounts and the year-over-year variance. Overall, the operating allocation has increased by $24.5 million, or 3.3% over 25-26 budget estimates. The majority of the increase is related to enrollment growth, which is sprinkled throughout various grants, most notably the per pupil allocations under classroom staffing and learning resource funds. Language grants have dropped by $2.6 million, mainly due to ESL, which is a direct result of lower immigration numbers. Some other increases include $2.5 million for the classroom supplies and consistent curriculum resources, and $4.2 million of the REPs and dual credit to Core Ed. Building on H1 operating grant allocations, Section H2 provides a high-level overview of these Core Ed grants across the 6 different funding categories and interest on long-term debt. And finally, H3 other revenues totals $25.8 million for 26-27. This represents a decrease of 3.5 over the prior year, primarily due to that transition of the REPs into Core Ed. This is offset by a $1.5 million increase in EDP revenues from enrollment growth, alongside $500,000 from fees like summer camps and community use of schools. Other notable variants include a $700,000 decrease in interest revenue due to declining interest rates and $300,000 in our early on revenues. I'll now pass it back to Associate Director Shimmons to review Section B1 and our proposal to balance.
Thank you. So this year's budget is a bit leaner than prior years for 2 reasons. First is the enrollment growth is slowing, and second, there were not many changes to the Core Ed funding, as we've just heard in the prior memo presentation. Enrollment growth is slowing down from what we've seen over the past 3 years, from a high of 5.4% in October 2023, down by almost half of that to 2.8% projected for this budget. And as you heard earlier in the Core Ed funding memo, other than funding increases tied to enrollment, the core education funding grants, there were not many changes to that funding. So with that in mind, our preliminary budget before one-time spending from reserves provides for $821 million in grant and other revenues to fund $821 million in structural expenses. So in simple terms, the operating budget is balanced to zero without considering our planned drawdown from reserves. That represents a 3% increase to revenues. Just a reminder from our previous meetings, the preliminary budget already incorporates the addition of 20 new teachers for additional supports. 2 teachers or 16 sections for high school transition teachers, 18 elementary intervention teachers for targeted supports. In addition to the 20 new teacher staffing is 3 additional half-time VPs for our schools most in need. So tonight we will present a $7.4 million list of items incorporating salaries, supplies, and committed multi-year reserve projects that are all a proposed one-time drawdown from reserves totaling the 1% compliance amount. Those items can be found in the 3 appendices B, C, and D found in the last page of your memo if you would choose to follow along. Beginning with the Appendix D with the multi-year investments from reserves, given those were committed as part of the 25-26 budget process. The proposed investments from reserves are detailed in the far right-hand column, totaling $3.2 million. On lines 1 and 4 of the continuation of the multi-year investments for year 2 of 3 years for play structure renewal, plus the final year for each of the skilled trades and special education inclusion and well-being initiatives. Also provided for from reserves is a small drawdown from the technology and system investments to allow finance to purchase a budgeting software for $150,000 to replace a multitude of spreadsheets. We also note that the drawdown for these initiatives are being taken from reserves that were committed by the board to provide for these specific types of initiatives. Moving to salaries, we're working our way back to Appendix B. The preliminary budget provides for the addition of 30 term EAs, which is 35 term EAs, I'm sorry, which is 35 more than what is currently in schools. An additional $250,000 of casual hours to support school offices, a doubling of the emergency EA budget that provides for temporary support until a student is able to be assessed, and an amount transitioning the office support with the move of the virtual program into St. Anthony's. The total one-time drawdown from reserves then for support to support temporary or term staffing is $2.8 million. Finally, moving to Appendix C, this brings us to the other supplies and expenditures. In this list of 18 items totaling $1.4 million, I won't go through each line in detail, but I will highlight a few. $180,000 for purchasing supplies for skilled trades and tech courses. $150,000 for student voice initiatives, where students along with staff sponsors submit projects vetted by students to further strategic goals. And $60,000 for additional release time to increase direct support for math professional development. So overall, these three schedules total a planned $7.4 million one-time drawdown from reserves. Of this, 6.5 of the $7.4 million, or 88%, is being added for spending in the classroom and classroom learning resources. Finally, no budget discussion would be complete without the mention of financial risks and pressures. The board continues to face financial pressures in the areas of special education, transportation, and sick leave costs. While portables have been a significant pressure in past budgets, with the increase of TAA funding for portables increasing from $1.6 million to $4 million, and the alignment of more new school spaces opening up, the funding pressure has eased and for the time being, and now is out of the top 3 priorities. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Coburn.
Great, thanks for the presentation. It's extensive. Obviously, the amount of work that's been done to this point has been extensive, so appreciate that. I want to confirm, I'm looking at, on your summary, B1-1 special education operating budget. I just want to confirm that that budget is showing a $28.5 million deficit. So I'm just confirming that.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. It is showing a $28.5 million deficit. That is for the current year. So that's the revised deficit for the current year. What's being projected for the 26-27 budget is $25.2 million. That is before adding that special initiative for inclusion and well-being. So that deficit will grow just slightly.
Slightly. Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Kira.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. I'm a student, so I might not understand all of the logistics of all the financial reports, but I just want to say it's great to see that there's more funding allocated for student voice initiatives, so thank you for that. And also, if I might be allowed a question, I'm curious under what funding is being allocated to the arts and the music arts in particular.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So you're asking where you would find that funding? So that funding would be sprinkled throughout the budget. It would be included in teachers that provide arts and music funding, or education, both in the elementary and secondary panel. And then within the G schedule, there would be some department budgets that would provide for resources that would support those programs, as well as in the school budget component, where principals would allocate some of their budget towards resources as well.
Trustee Luka-Teach Myers.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair.
very detailed presentation as always, and as we've come to expect from you guys. Just on the decreased enrollment, so I think obviously for the budgeting, it's kind of like a 1-year horizon. And I think I've asked this maybe before. It starts to worry me a little bit when we see the decrease of enrollment, more kind of, and I know we're in a healthy situation, but more kind of forward looking. And with these drawdowns from reserves, I guess my question is kind of long-term. Do we have any kind of long-range planning, let's say looking out 5 years, kind of with a bit of a prediction, let's say if this continues to kind of decrease, how long can we sustain, through our reserves, some financial pressures, especially one of the big concerns is obviously special education. So I know that it's a bit of a muffled question. Sorry for that. I hope it's clear enough for you. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. That's an excellent question, and it actually was part of one of the paragraphs of the end of my presentation that I didn't include. It's something that we definitely have to turn our heads to. We do build into each year's budget a portion of expenditures that are one time, so that as we're moving forward to the next year, because the funding is announced year by year, that it provides for a little bit room to absorb some of the inflationary pressures. That being said, our growth rate, we continue to grow. We're just slowing in growth rate. So, we're slowing in growth rate. So we continue to be able to absorb a lot of those inflationary pressures. Part of the goal of putting this budgeting software in is be able to do a 1, a 3, a 5-year projection more accurately, to be able to provide for going forward. We do have a healthy level of reserves, and we're yet to file a year that actually records an actual deficit where we've actually drawn down from those reserves. So we're still in a good financial position, but you're absolutely correct. We do receive year-by-year funding, but I would love to see a multi-year budget with some projections towards if they kept funding status quo. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. We're not in a declining enrollment, but we're not adding as many kids as we did last year. So the extra enrollment is declining, but we're still adding new students.
Correct. So the rate at which we're growing. So we were growing.
Is slowing down.
Is slowing down.
Yes. Trustee Coleman.
Last question, so we're not approving tonight. So what is going to be presented over and above then that has been presented to date that's going to allow us to approve it on June the 9th?
So what's yet to be presented would be the schedules of capital. So that would be the major capital projects that we've received approval from the ministry for. That will be coming forth next, as well as the schedule for accumulated and deferred revenues. I think that's it. Yeah, those two schedules will come forward, and then everything will be put together in one package.
Okay, thank you. And if there are no questions, I'll move it.
Thank you. Trustee Moore?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. So the responsive education programs, we're expecting those allocations before we pass the budget. Would that hold up the budget? It is $1 million, but would it hold up the budget, or would we be able to absorb that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a great question. We're hopeful that we will receive the memo with the responsive education program. The discussion last week, we thought we might get it in the next week. That being said, the responsive education funding will increase the revenue for those programs on one side, and then increase the expenses on the other side, because all of those are year by year. So they're not presently included the expenses for the budget, so it'd be a net zero to the bottom line. We'd incorporate it to include for the revised estimates next year. So it won't hold up, no.
Trustee Fallon.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, I might have missed this quickly here, but our three financial headwinds ahead of us are spec ed, transportation, and the third was
Sick leave.
sick leave. That's right. Okay. Thank you. And I'll second it, just to get in the minutes. How's that sound?
Any other questions or comments? Moved by Trustee Colburn, second by Trustee Phelan. The memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated May 20th, 2026, entitled 2026-2027 Preliminary Budget Information and Proposals to Balance, and the accompanying budget documentation be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies. New business, we have none. We have no notice of motions. Confirmation of the action report of May 12th, 2026. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Melito. I saw that hand. Seconded by Trustee McEwen. That the action report of May 12th, 2026 be approved as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Administrative announcements, Madam Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe we have any birthdays until June, so that can wait. I did want to let the Board of Trustees know that on Friday, under the leadership of Superintendent Ahoro and Michelle McGarry, who was here earlier, the principal in that department, and the Indigenous team, we did have our second annual Indigenous Student Cultural Celebration and Powwow. Last year it was at St. Patrick's High School. This year it was at Lester B. Pearson. And although it was a high school initiative in terms of our central staff and our students, many of whom belong to an Indigenous Student Association at their high school, they did invite grade 6 students this year, and it was a fantastic partnership with the community, the Indigenous team in the OCSB, and our students. That's it for tonight, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a mover for adjournment, please? That would be the trio or duo over there. Trustee Colburn, Trustee Phelan. That the regular board meeting of May 26, 2026 be adjourned at 8:34 p.m. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.